Hey there, welcome back to my channel. Today I am participating in the Boo Bash Challenge. Now this is being hosted by Michelle from Michelle's Cozy Home, and it's being co-hosted by Alicialynn from the Harts and Alicia from Alicialynn. Now all three of these women are very talented. I have known Michelle and Alicia for a while now. Michelle does some amazing DIYs and she's very creative and she is super sweet. She also tries to use very inexpensive products like things from the Dollar Tree. Alicia is super sweet as well. She's a very talented cook, and her and her husband also do Weight Watchers, and so she will show different meals that she makes for them and shows how they are Weight Watchers friendly. She also does hauls from a variety of places, and so you will enjoy her as well. I'm new to the Harts, to Eileen's channel, so I am still checking her out as well, but from what I saw, she seems like another very talented crafter, and I look forward to checking out more of her videos. So after you are done watching this video, then definitely go check out all three of these very talented ladies. And if you are new to my channel, thank you so much for stopping by. I hope that you like this video, and if you do, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel. Now let's get started. For this first project, you're going to need one of the dollar store craft pumpkins and some white chalk paint. I am using the Folk Art chalk paint in the color White Adirondak, and I just painted the entire pumpkin. I didn't do the green stem. It wasn't really necessary and it gave me a place to hold on to it, but I did 2 coats, and then I had some of this black tulle, but you could use black ribbon or whatever you happen to have on hand, and I measured it by seeing how much it would take to wrap around the pumpkin and gather at the top. Then I cut several strips in that length. I hot glued them to the bottom in the center, as you can see, sort of in a spiral kind of pattern coming out, and then I used the end of this paintbrush to push down the hot glue that I had used to secure it in place. When you gather it at the top, you want to tie it off, and once you have it tied off at the top, then I'm using some of the nautical rope from Dollar Tree, and I am just hot gluing it all around to make a little stem, and I'm wrapping it around the tulle that I gathered at the top. And then once you get it to the height of stem that you want, you snip off the tulle and snip off the rope, making sure you leave enough to push and kind of close down into the center to finish your stem. Now I'm using this black lace ribbon that I happen to have on hand, and I'm going to apply it the same way I did with the tulle. Hot glue it on the bottom and bring it up around the sides wherever I think looks good. Now you don't have to use black lace, you don't have to even use black. You can use whatever color you want and whatever ribbons or lace you happen to have on hand. Dollar Tree does have a nice selection, so whatever suits your style. And now I'm going to take some regular, just some leaves that I had left over, and I am painting them with that white chalk paint, and then I go back through with a black paint and just kind of take the black paint in the grooves of the veins that are in the leaves, and that gives it a little bit of texture. Then I'm hot gluing that to the top at the base of the stem, and after I initially glued it, I did end up kind of folding the one leaf back and gluing that into a different position. And now I am taking some of the nautical rope and pulling it apart, and it naturally just has this sort of curl to it. So I am gluing that behind the leaves, and I think that is a very nice touch. Next, I'm taking some of the Dollar Tree chalkboard paint, and I'm painting one of the shadow boxes that is shaped like a house. I'm painting that all over the back and the sides, and then a little bit into the interior. And while that is drying, we're going to go on to these papers, which these I purchased at Target in their dollar spot. And you get several different squares of the paper and a set of stencils. Now I chose this paper, and in order to make it, to cut it down to the right size, I set it on top of the box, the shadow box, and just pushed down around the edge, and that made a nice little crease and gave me a line to follow in order to cut it. Once I was done cutting it out, then I put it aside and made sort of a decoupage type of glue. I had some of the tacky glue, and I purchased that at Dollar Tree, added a little bit of water to it, and then painted it on that interior part of my shadow box. Then I put the paper inside and pushed it down and smoothed it out. And I think that particular print of paper looks really nice against the black shadow box. Next, I'm going to take some stencils that I picked up at Dollar Tree. You get 2 of these Halloween stencils in 1 pack. And I'm using the Home Sweet Home one. And I'm going to use some more of my chalk paint. And I just go over the letters very carefully, making sure you go straight up and down to just put the pressure right inside the framework of the stencil. Now, when I lifted this up, I realized that my edges weren't probably as clean as they could have been, but I actually really like the look, considering it is supposed to be sort of a haunted, spooky kind of lettering. The other thing I noticed is I had gone over on the one side a little, and you'll see there's a mark there beside the D, but that's not a big deal because I just went over it then in a little while once it dried with some of the black paint, and it was completely fine. I decided that I wanted the word haunted to stand out a little bit, so I took an orange highlighter and kind of went over one side of each letter, so it's kind of to create sort of an orangish shadow. So I would just do the right side, all of the right sides of each letter. And I think it was a very simple and easy way to kind of make the letters of that word stand out a little bit more. So next I needed a couple of Halloween shapes. So I found this pack of pumpkins and some bats and ghost clips at my Target dollar spot. My Dollar Tree didn't seem to have them this year, so at least that I could find. So I picked these up at Target, and I took the clips off the back of the bats and the ghosts, and then I highlighted around the ghost's eyes. And then I decided to put sort of a blurred edge on the outside, all around the edge, and I just used that white chalk paint and dry brushed it onto there. Then I took the sandpaper, because these ghosts were made out of plastic, the ghosts and the bat, so I needed to kind of rough it up a little so that it would give the hot glue something to adhere to. And then I just hot glued the ghost right there on the top, and then I put another one down in the bottom. And now we're done with the one side. I think it looks really cute, those little ghosts on there. And now we're gonna finish the back. So inside this shadow box, we're gonna put one of the little blocks that is from the block game that you can get in the toy section of Dollar Tree. It's kind of like a Jenga, but it's sort of a miniature version of that. And then I'm going to take one of the pumpkins from that little set that I showed you, and paint it black. And then once it dries, I just hot glue it right onto my little block, and that gives it more of a 3D effect. Now this side's done too, and I think it's cute how the two little ghosts kind of pop out from the back. And so it still works to be facing either direction. So we got Home Sweet Haunted Home on one side, and then the pumpkin on the other. For the third project, we're going to start with this sign that I picked up at Dollar Tree. It has the pumpkins and the footballs, and also one of these signs from Dollar Tree, and then also that paper pack that I purchased from Target Dollar Spot for $1. I'm going to use the same black and white pattern that I used before. And also this is a sticker, a giant sticker that says October 31, and it's actually a 2-pack, and it was $1 in Target Dollar Spot as well. I'm telling you, Target has some really good craft supplies in that dollar spot, so keep an eye out for those. I always pick them up when I see them. I'm going to take the ribbon and the staples out of each of these pieces of the sign, but today we're only going to be using one of the pumpkins. The staples were really easy to remove. I was actually surprised how easy, but now I will have all these pieces I could use in a future DIY. So I take the pumpkin that I'm going to be using and I sand down the little staple holes in the back. They were not deep at all, so it was not a big deal. And then even though this part you're not going to see, I decided to sand down some of the glitter because the word had glitter in it. And that way I can paint over it as well. Even though it's the back, I like to have sort of like a finished look to it. So I tend to paint the back of some of my projects as well. I used 2 coats, and then once it was dry, I started to measure the paper to line it up with the part of the pattern that I wanted to be attached to the front of this long piece of my sign. So I lined it up and traced it, and then I used my mini paper cutter to cut it. Since this paper wasn't long enough to cover the entire front of my sign, I just cut 2 smaller pieces and then made sure I lined up the patterns on the front. Next, I watered down the tacky glue again to make another sort of decoupage glue, covered the front of my sign, and then put the paper on one half, and then whenever I put it on the second half, I had to make sure that I lined up the patterns. And once I did that, you couldn't even tell that it was 2 separate pieces of paper. Then I got out my October 31 stickers and started to peel them off the backing. You want to be careful just because it's one long word, but it actually seemed sort of durable. It was a little bit thicker than a normal sticker. It was glittery looking, but it didn't have the kind of glitter that gets all over your hands, and I was happy about that. Now, if you don't have this particular set of stickers, Dollar Tree sells stickers. You can use stencils. Like there are a lot of options. You don't have to use just this exact set that I just happened to find. And so once that was placed, then I put the 31 onto that black painted pumpkin. Then I needed to line up the pumpkin with the long part of the sign to make sure that whenever I stood it upright, the pumpkin wasn't going to get in the way. So I hot glued the bottom of the pumpkin and just stuck it right onto the front of my sign. And then kind of stood it upright again just to make sure that it wasn't going to interfere with how it was going to stand. And that's it. Now we have our cute little October 31 sign done. For the last project today, I am using one of these Dollar Tree signs. I really like the black frame on this. It's a square and it's a nice solid black. There's no glass in it, so I just took the insert out and covered it with white cardstock. Now the only white paper I had was long going one direction, so I had to trim it down, but from top to bottom it was a little short. So to give it more of a finished edge, I decided to paint it black across the top and across the bottom, and then I let that dry. Then I covered the surface with that decoupage glue that I make. So then I just put the cardstock that I had cut down to size on top of that decoupage glue, smoothing it out. Make sure you don't use too much decoupage because it can make your paper get kind of wrinkly. Next, I'm going to use some wood beads that I had on hand from other projects, and I'm going to paint 3 of them black and 3 of them white and let them dry. If you don't have any wood beads on hand, you could purchase this frame from Dollar Tree. It has a few of the wood beads at the top, and it would be very easy to take them off and it wouldn't mess up your frame. Or you could purchase this bag of wooden beads from Dollar Tree. Now these come already painted and the paint finish is kind of shiny, but I'm going to use the orange ones for my project today. Once the beads were dry, I strung them in a pattern onto some twine. I decided also to put some knots in between different sections on the pattern. And so if you want to do that, then you could do that as well. As you string your beads, every so often just put a knot in the twine. Actually, I double knotted it to make sure it was a good hold. Next, I was going to be applying the Halloween stickers, the Happy Halloween stickers that I picked up at Target Dollar Spot. And so I wanted to mark lightly with a pencil so that I would get a nice even placement of the letters. I started with my center letter and worked my way out to the side so that I could be sure that I centered the words on the paper. Did the same thing with the bottom word. I decided to add this scrap of lace across the top, so I just hot glued that in place. And then I also added this black bat cutout that was in the pack from the Target Dollar Spot. Just centered that right at the bottom of my paper. Then I hot glued the twine to the back of the board, and plus I knew that the frame was going to help to hold this in place as well. Then I put it back inside the frame and pushed all the little tabs down to secure it in place. So I hope you like this. It is sort of a fun, minimalist looking piece, and I really like it. So thanks so much for stopping by today. I hope you enjoyed these DIYs. Each one was super simple, easy to make, and very inexpensive. Also, be sure to check the description box below and go check out the hostesses of this challenge, and also check out the playlist, which will be in my description box below as well, so you can check out what all of the other participants will be making. Hope you are enjoying your fall and this cozy time of year. If you are new to my channel, please subscribe, hit the like button if you enjoyed this video, and have a fantastic day. See you next time. Bye.